It's being organized by Boye Oshinaga Foundation. This year's conference is an offshoot of the Tech Relevant Teacher Project. That's a project aimed at training educators on how to deploy technology for teaching and learning in the classroom. The TRTP is being funded by a grant from the Coca-Cola Foundation, and for this we're very grateful. This conference was initially designed as a core component of the training project and therefore meant for the beneficiaries of the TRTP, that's the Tech Relevant Teacher Project. However, after considering the potential impact that knowledge gained from an event of this nature could have, and further leveraging on the blessings and not curses, on the blessings of COVID-19 that made virtual events a norm, we decided to expand the reach by opening it up to school leaders beyond the 216 direct beneficiary schools of the project. So while I sincerely appreciate everyone that registered for this conference, I would like to specially congratulate the leaders of the 216 schools from all corners of Lagos State who successfully scaled through the 10-step screening process that was used in selecting our beneficiaries. We're confident that the wealth of knowledge that will be gained from the training over the next few weeks would impact positively on the creation of electronic learning content for thousands of learners across Africa. Today is not a day of many stories about what technology can do for you. This, I believe, you may already know. Rather, it is time to focus on activating the tech geniuses in each school leader that is represented here today.
The year 2020 began in a seemingly unremarkable fashion, just like the years before it. Then, something changed. People were coming down with a strange illness. Talks of a new virus, a deadly and highly contagious one, seemed to be whispered from different parts of the world. It was the coronavirus. Soon, the World Health Organization declared the new strain of the coronavirus a global pandemic. This kicked off a flurry of activities worldwide. Nations declared lockdown and flights were banned. Nigeria was no exception. On 31st of January 2020, the World Health Organization listed Nigeria as one of the 13 African countries that were at high risk for the spread of the virus. On 26th of February, a Chinese citizen presented himself to the Lagos State government on suspicion of being infected with the virus. He was tested and found negative. It wasn't long before actual confirmed cases began to dominate the media and the rate soared in Lagos and Abuja. Beginning from the 27th of February 2020 to date, there has been a steady report of cases in Nigeria's two most popular cities, Lagos and Abuja. The Nigerian government declared a nationwide lockdown. Churches, businesses, and schools, amongst others, were shut down. This has never happened before. The closure challenged the system. Many schools, teachers, and even pupils were not ready for what happened. Schools responded differently to the new norm. While some soared, many sunk. How did these affect the Nigerian teachers, students, pupils, and school management?
Some of the teachers, I couldn't pay them. I couldn't pay them because I was not doing anything.
So because of the lockdown, so no more income coming to the school. So we have challenges in paying the staff salary and also run some expenses in the school.
The parents are unable to pay their fees because they said so far we are not in school, they are not going to pay. The teachers were unable to pay them their salaries.
The academic aspect of those children, because we've not finished with the syllabus then.
When I saw what was going on and I was pathetic about the children's learning process, so I had to call my teachers and say, what are we going to do? And so we all agreed that, okay, the only way we could do it, one of the teachers who is a computer literate now said, let's use WhatsApp. So my teachers normally come 2 times a week. We took our scheme, uploaded, we taught English, mathematics, and science. We did it class by class. Then that particular teacher is the one that will be uploading it. We will video the teacher teaching.
But when it came, the only means we can use that was a WhatsApp platform, whereby on a weekly basis, the teachers also download notes and assessments to the pupils based on their scheme of work.
COVID-19 was a new terrain for everybody, but at the same time, we were not prepared for it. But at the same time, we were not caught unaware. Why? Because we've been working online with the children prior to the setting of the COVID-19. Like our children basically do their computer-based tests, which is online. So they are familiar with, they already acquired their IT skills.
Although some parents said it's okay by them, but some said they couldn't afford money to eat at home, talking of buying data. But those that said it's okay by them, we started with them. Then we even appealed to those that are complaining that there is no money for them to buy data. We said they can still manage. If the children cannot be online every day, they can still make it maybe 2 or 3 times in a week. And there is positive outcome from it. At least about 70 to 80 parents turn up.
Although what really happened is that we are on WhatsApp group already. We put the classes on the WhatsApp group in which we do chats with the parents in case we have any event we want to do. So that make it very easy for us to use that platform as a teaching for those children. We send a message to the parent that we'll be starting lecture from so time to so time. So they have to be available with the children then.
Online teaching has really aided or has helped with the teachers to think outside the box. And with the aid of the online teaching, we can easily communicate with our learners without they coming into the classroom.
It makes them to pick more interest because of the technology part of it.
Pupils did not adjust very well during the COVID, the online learning, just because we are not seeing them. I enjoyed the online.
For us as a school, a big thanks to our proprietors who had the vision of online schooling that we call a flipped classroom. So this was our emphasis and target before the pandemic came. So the advent of the pandemic wasn't a shocker as it were to the global world to us.
We teachers, we learn a lot of things, how to use technology to teach. We were able to discover how to teach online, like use of Google Classroom and also the use of Google Form to prepare the children assessments. And we also learn how to prepare videos, our own videos, the content of what we want to teach the children. The use of Canvas application and InShots to produce our own video that the children can be able to learn from instead of downloading from YouTube.
Then we do talk to the parents not to release their phone to their children, even either the father's cell phone or the mother's phone.
It wasn't easy at first, getting the parents to sit with the children for the teaching, even to release their phone. Some will tell you that, oh, I'm going to work. So it wasn't an easy thing introducing the online teaching at the initial stage.
Obviously, there are opportunities and threats to the use of technology in teaching and learning. Different views have been expressed by parents, teachers, school heads, and pupils. What do the experts have to say about this?
So technology has come to free us, has come to move us into a great expanse of opportunities. But in your own case, what I'd like you to focus on, yes, it's still about what it was before and what it is now. What were you doing with schools before COVID, and what are you doing now?
Yes, thank you very much. So what I would say is that what we've seen before and after COVID is that schools were cautious, a lot more cautious about incorporating technology. And they were basically the ostrich that hides his head in the sand. And so they wanted to make sure it didn't happen if they could get by without it. But I think what happened with COVID and the pandemic and lockdowns and the results of that is that you now see schools being forced. It's like somebody who is very shy about public speaking being forced to speak to everyone. So that push, that force, has then created an opportunity for change. And so we are seeing that, you know, in situations then when I would pitch that we can use learning content that are digital for schools, and they would say, how would that happen? Because we don't have devices or we don't have this or that. Limitations would spring up. You know, we started hearing less excuses for adopting technology and making change in things like quality, access, and efficiency of running schools.
Excellent. Change in 3 key areas: quality, access, and efficiency. Fantastic, fantastic. So I'm going to move on quickly to a question that seems to have been asked from different perspectives. One is on finances. And the question here is, how can it be affordable? For the founders, school founders we have here, I'm going to tweak that question and ask you how you have made it affordable to parents in your school. What exactly have you done? And I think I should start with Mrs. Osagie this time.
Okay. For us as a school, it just starts from the vision. And that for us is very, very key. As a school, our vision is to raise global citizens. And that is where the drive came. And you cannot raise children that are not prepared for the future of work and the future of the world that they will live in. So you can't separate technology from you raising children that are well prepared for the future. And because of that, we looked inward and saw the need to infuse and to start the use of tech in what we do. Though we started very little, we did not have so much resources. There was a time we did not have a single gadget, no laptop, no tab, nothing. And but the vision was there that we were working towards it. And at a point we had our laptops, and we now went further to acquiring tablets for children. We had issues with parents understanding and adapting to the change that we brought. They were like, they can't afford it and all of that. So what we did was we got 5 tablets at a time. And out of the 5, 2 got broken, but we never gave up, and we went further to acquiring more. Today we have about 40 tabs, aside the laptops that we also have. And when the parents start seeing the impact that tech is making on their children, they started coming and get, okay, how much is it? They started coming gradually. Today we have quite a good number of our children with their own personal tab, aside of what the school owns.
Thank you. So you started with nothing, and that's exactly what the Mrs. Adeosun said. Start from wherever you are. That was the first thing. Then the school on its own started something small. Parents saw and bought into it, but all this was driven by your vision. Excellent. Mr. Molumo, in your own case, how did it go? How did you get parents to be able to afford it?
Thank you. The major decision took place in 2013 when we said to the parents, we want to metamorphose into a tech-based learning. And interestingly enough, we were lucky and fortunate to get the parents buy-in immediately. And the following term, almost 100% of the students had to resume school with their personal laptop. Then we took a lot of major incentives towards it. We said to parents, perchance we may not need them to invest in textbooks again. Rather, convert the money you want to use in buying textbooks to buying laptop for your child, because we can infuse every learning material that they will require. We can put them into the laptop and they can digitally read them and co like that. So we were lucky, like I said, that all the parents understood and everybody cooperated, and almost like 100% of the students resumed the following term in 2013 with their personal laptop. And since then, it had been the major requirement that a student must have if you are to attend our school.
Awesome, awesome. So it was all about buying. You presented what you were trying to achieve to parents, they bought in, and you were able to. Boye, in your own case, you work across different schools. How have you been able to support those schools to make it affordable to parents?
So first of all, companies like ours, Edtech companies, have to think a lot about pricing, because we find that there are well-to-do schools, or majority of schools are not well-to-do. So two things we adopted is, one, the idea of differential pricing. So you have a pricing plan for schools that are just, use this tier of services or products, and then if you have more well-to-do and you can get your parents to pay for more, like pay for content, for example, in addition to technology and tools, then you have a different pricing plan. So just that sense that you can choose one and you don't have to bear everything all at once. So it's one of the things that we thought about. And then secondly is, because we're venture-backed companies, our mentality is that if you don't reach a critical mass, we will not exist actually. We will not be able to survive. And so we stake our future on the fact that our product is innovative enough to be adopted by a good, large market share of the schools for it to then survive and be sustainable. And thirdly is we priced for per student, which helps for sustainability as well. So as schools grow, we're not burdening them with imaginary costs that are not tied to the core cost, which is the cost of each student in their school. So if they grow, we grow with them. So we basically come to them at their level. Some schools that have some pushback and say, oh, just give us a flat price, but it doesn't help either the Edtech company or the school to price like that, because in the end, the asset is the sense, the student and their parents who are paying for it. So these are the strategies.
Okay, I want us to stretch this a bit into areas in which schools can collaborate to bring down costs. I remember I mentioned this to Mr. Molumo before we started, and I said, is it possible for schools to come together and bring down costs? And the reason this is important to us is education is a space where we're still encouraging schools to open up to each other. We're encouraging schools not to compete, but rather collaborate. Have one focus, and that's the interest of the child. Mr. Molumo, your experience, what areas can schools collaborate on so that they can bring down the cost and make tech more accessible to learners?
There's no gainsaying the fact that technology is cheap. It's a lot of money. There's no doubt about that. It costs money. So technology to be deployed into the education sector is not all about laptop alone. There are quite a number more. You heard the earlier speakers mentioning that they had to go into robotics, and for them to go into robotics, robotic kits are not cheap. They are very costly, very expensive. So some schools are even going far beyond that now. in our school. We just acquired some 3D printers. We are acquiring VR gadgets, virtual reality and augmented reality equipment and co like that. There is a lot of money for all of those things. But one of the things that I know is that even when a school is able to acquire all of those equipment, it is not all of the minutes, all of the hours, and all of the days that the school requires them. So the idea of actually collaborating with schools within the same geographical zone can actually work. If a school that is not able to acquire all of those kind of equipment and you are partnering with them, and there are specific days of the week and time that they can either bring their children such to your laboratory or the practical fields, and they can, make use of such equipment. There are also, for me, I am not also interested in charging for such kind of collaboration activity, because there are other areas of strength that the other school may also be having that we may also benefit. So it's something like trade by barter sort of that I would have advocated for. But just to sum it up is to say that we just need to come together. I mean, it's just practically impossible for all schools to be able to acquire all of the gadgets. It gets to a stage that even majority of the gadgets that you may have invested heavily on are just lying there fallow in your laboratories or in your classes, and you are not using them, whereas you could have, some of them don't even, I mean, the ruggedness in them doesn't make them to spoil easily. I give you an example of one of the things that we did some time ago. We were able to acquire some of this chess equipment, the garden type, the very big ones. And they are outside in the school because we teach chess as a subject in the school. And it is not all of the moments that the kids will require it. I know how much it cost. Even when we brought them at the airport in Nigeria, the customs seized it that no, we can't bring this into the country, and they want to charge heavily for it and the like. So what eventually we had to do was to have some schools around. If your kids are also interested, you can always bring them in this number of days, let them come around. We have a coach who is putting the students through, so they can also, if there is anything in form of compensation that you may want to do, maybe directly to the coach, but not necessarily to the school. That, okay, maybe you can just say for that manner that the coach is using, and they are able to use that. We have also done the same thing with our robotic laboratory, So, I mean, with one or two schools around us, and I know there are quite a number of other ones. I will say this on the final note of that. In 2013, 2014, when we established the computer laboratory, we were able to put desktops there, so almost about 20 there. But down the line, because we have been able to achieve 100% personal laptops for all of the students in the school, it therefore means that our desktops are redundant. They are no longer useful, and we don't need the computer lab again. So for us, we have to phase out the computer lab, because computer lab has become personalized with each of the students and staff of the school. And all of the desktop that we had, we had to start donating some of them, even including the furniture that were in such laboratory. We donated it to some other, low-grade schools around and the like.
So it starts from the heart. That heart of giving, the heart of anything for another child. Excellent. So if I hear you well, Mr. Molumo, what you are saying is schools must start to share resources. The same way we have Uber. I mean, we don't know who owns which car, but we all share somehow. We share the same thing. In your own case, Mrs. Osagie, what would you say about that? How can schools come together to bring down the cost of technology and even other aspects of education?
Okay, this is a very key and very important question for me. And I would like to talk about where you ended your talk. There is a thing of the heart. It all starts from the heart, and it all starts from the mind. And I would like to quickly say this before I go forward, is about the issue of mindsets. I was so glad to hear what Mr. Molumo said about schools around his area collaborating. Here in Nigeria, it's very difficult to see schools really come together to do as in meaningful collaboration, because the issue of competition is there, the issue of, oh, will they not take over my children, maybe it's just gimmicks, trying to get over our school and all of that. So I believe a lot of school leaders are hearing me, and I would like to encourage every one of us to have a change of mind and really see collaboration as the way forward for us to move our schools forward. I've done a lot of collaborations with senior colleagues that have really moved what we are doing forward. And at the same time, we've also collaborated with other schools that are lower than ours, and we've done some donations to them, like some materials that we see that we no longer use. Like we've not started in the aspect of technology, donating tech gadgets and all that, but in the aspect of furnitures, like when we had to change our school furnitures to what we have presently, what we did was the old ones, we called some schools around our area that we knew they really needed it. And then they came, we gave it out, and also even gave some cash alongside with those furniture. And that really made them happy. So collaboration is the way forward.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Osagie. So aspiration and inspiration. You look for schools that you're aspiring to be like, partner with them, and then you look for other schools to inspire. And I hope that school leaders are really listening to this. It's all about give and take, and we almost do that. But I'd like to go back to Mr. Molumo and ask a question. I remember when I got into education, coming from a background where we were all used to sharing experience as an accountant. You have a problem, you call the accountant in the next company, you rub minds, you move on. When I got into education, the school I was working in, there were 3 schools on that street. And innocent me, I went to knock on the door of the first school, and practically the door was shut in my face. And later they warned me that they don't do it like that in this industry. They don't open up. But Mr. Molumo, you were not afraid. You actually called in schools in. What was going on in your mind? How come you were not afraid of either losing children or losing staff?
One of the very first things that I naturally believe is that visions are different. What we individually pursue are different. I really don't see any other school, not even in the whole country, pursuing the same agenda as mine. So we are not in any way competing at any time. I know one of the things that perhaps you must also have been aware of is that I allow school proprietors, proprietresses to come into my school and even stay days, to understudy the school without charging you anything, and I will also accommodate you and even feed you for the period, and you don't need to give me a dime. And within the period, I will allow you to also, don't do picture alone, do motion images, so video. So because for me, what you see today may not be there next month. So the more you are able to take this away, the more it forces me to go back into my research room and I congeal my brain. What next do we need to do to excite anybody? So for me, I really don't see competition from time until today. And also, before I actually went into education in full gear, one of the personal social responsibility that I've always been doing during my annual leave is to go to some schools and deliver training on tech to their teachers and co. It was a tough call, but I never get perturbed by any school that says no and co like that. I move on to the next one, and probably when they get news about, oh, this is what happened in our school, they probably wanted to invite you back. So my take is to say that we are not in any way computing. That is number one. Number two is that I don't also have the capacity to be able to absorb all of the students that are coming to my school. So if I don't have the capacity, where will every other one that is coming, where will they go to? So definitely I need schools that are also running similar programs, similar agendas, similar curriculum, that could be a spillover. You know, that, okay, if this place is filled up, this is also another very fantastic school around. You can recommend and co like that. And on the final note is always to say that the world is a very wider space for every one of us to really operate without one actually struggling on the shoulder of the other one. So there's no competition, but there must be collaboration. It's also important that I bring to notice. I said earlier on, it appeared as if, oh, we are the only one that is giving out. No, I've also been receiving. I know that one of the schools that I was donating some furniture to and co, the principal of that school had on a number of occasions come to my school to train my teachers for free as well. So that's also a form of collaboration and giving back that, okay, we have gotten from these people, we also must think of what we give back and co. So the collaboration we are talking of should not be limited to just equipment and hardware alone, even human resources. So we also can collaborate on that basis. I could have an expertise that is difficult to get, you know, around in certain field, in certain subject area, and I'm not going to engage in 8 hours, 9 hours of the day. So the remaining hours that is doing his own flex time, is doing research, could probably be, you know, giving out 1 hour, 2 hours of that to another school around without necessarily, you know, affecting our own fortune.
Thank you. The amazing thing for me is every school claims they want to raise children who will thrive in future. However, the main skills that those children need to be able to thrive, schools in a number of cases do not demonstrate. For instance, collaboration, creativity, innovation. How many schools will sit down and think like this? Not many. And so if you are trying to raise children who will collaborate and you are not demonstrating collaboration to them, how are we going to be able to raise such children? Which takes me to the issue of the vision. A vision for schools is always beyond academics. And we're talking about technology. We all believe very much there are certain values, there are certain things that you can only transfer in person. How has technology supported the actualization of your goal beyond the academics? I'll start with Mrs. Osagie.
Well,
Sorry, particularly during lockdown, how did you make sure that you taught beyond maths and English?
Okay, so what we did for us as a school was we were planning to go virtual before lockdown. Fortunately for us, very fortunately for us. So when lockdown was declared, it was something, it became very easy, it was easier to just launch what we were planning already. So tech was something very, very useful for us during lockdown. We were able to reach our children. What we did was our teachers started creating their own content. So they created their own content and we used several platforms during lockdown. We used Google Classroom, we used Zoom, we used the WhatsApp platform to reach out to our children. We actually did online exams, even during lockdown. Our children never missed out in any of those terms. We did our total exam online. We were even able to invigilate. What we did was, because we were looking at the credibility of the online exam, if we just pass the questions to them, we don't know how they're doing it in their homes. Maybe they are getting support from parents or siblings or what have you. So what we did, we decided to, for the exam to be credible, we decided to invigilate them. So we did it in batches. So we were planning to use Zoom, but at the end we concluded on using WhatsApp video call for the invigilation. So we'll call them, we'll see them live. So when we are sure we've seen them and they are prepared and ready, before we now send the exam questions via Google form to them via Google Classroom, and they were able to write the exam And to my amazement, they did excellently well.
So you continue to drive values such as integrity.
Yes.
With your children.
Exactly.
Mr. Molumo, I know you are very high on global collaborations. You are very high on children being able to articulate themselves, being aware of what's going on. How were you able to achieve that during the lockdown?
Yeah, thank you. Much earlier than the lockdown, I've always been online, doing a lot of activities, learning, not necessarily about the core academics, not necessarily about physics, chemistry, biology, and co. There are quite a number of other areas, especially when it comes to soft skills, as well as techie-based knowledge that the students need to have, which we don't have in-house capacity for. And we decide to collaborate with either individuals or institutions within or outside the country. So one of those key areas that we were able to achieve during the lockdown, as a matter of fact, when the lockdown was over and the schools were to be opening their gates again, majority of our parents and my students were clamoring for us to continue, the remote learning, because to be honest, we achieved some things that ordinarily we may not have achieved, when the school is fully opened and co. And that was a period that we were able to drive home quite a number of those techie courses that we had wanted our students to participate in, even at a very global level. We are talking about coding, we are talking about robotics, we are talking about artificial intelligence, robotics, and quite a number of those techie courses. So it was an opportunity for us to go into it in full gear during the lockdown. And I think I've said it in one of the fora before, that the height of achieving in that respect was getting some of our students, even writing certification exams in some of those techie-based, and we had a student who was able to complete close to about 80 courses, online, so, and got certificated in all of them, and quite a number of other ones and the like. So even within the lockdown, there were quite a number of awards and rewards coming from different parts of the world in my students participating in this coding project or this software, competition, or even the use of drone technology and co like that. One of my students participated in the mapping of Magogo in Lagos using drone technology on the basis of what we have been able to do. So for us, the online classes was not just limited to the regular academics. So we were able to do, bring on board extensive and deeper hands on most of those soft skills and techie-based skills that they need to have.
Wow. This is so exciting. So school leaders, you can see now from experience that has been shared that we can continue to drive the learning of values or development of values. We can also continue to drive all the other aspects of education. Boye, to you, I'd like you to share with us, are there ways that your tool can assess this non-academic side? Have you done anything in that space? For instance, when Dr. Adeosun was sharing, she talked a lot about data, the kind of data they capture, and how they use the data for decision-making purposes. So non-academic progress, is that something that your tool can capture?
Yeah, thank you very much. I actually want to say a little bit about school collaboration, so I think that's the same there. And I think I've seen and I've heard schools come to us and say that they want to extend their school to more people that may not be able to afford to come to their school using online learning environments, right, that we provide. I think that it's important for a school that, says it's a successful school to build the ecosystem in its own image. So similar to like America being the world power and westernizing all of us who eat hamburgers, and we understand how to collaborate with America. So if you are the, foremost school, it's important that you set the pace, you create a gold standard, and that you make people kind of match up to it to an extent. Because when you have those children go out to become adults in the outside world, they will deal with the children of the other schools that were not like you. And so if one person is bad or poor or getting bad result, it drags everybody else with it. So therefore, it's something that's why Harvard, for example, are some of the top universities in the United States, because they want to make sure that there's one, standardization. And also it does something, there's an incentive to do that as well, because from a revenue perspective, not only does Nigeria have to diversify, schools have to diversify income. And one of the best ways to do that is through the theory of long tail. You can make money from anybody anywhere in Nigeria or anywhere in the world by supporting them, helping them to learn, and there will be some revenue at some point in that process. And so you can do your research and development through that, standardizing your own learning from what you are learning outside of your school. So I think that's a very, very important point. And we think more schools need to be incentivized to do better about extending themselves. So that's one point. About soft skills and other skills, and what we are doing at Gradelu is we are creating a system that allows learning to happen in a way that is differentiated and in a way that helps to lead to mastery, whatever that subject is. So even when you have a core of maths, sciences, and English, it's possible to then add on top of that courses. And I think later in the year, when we are doing summer schools in collaboration with some other schools, online summer schools, in collaboration with quite a number of schools, we will test it for the first time, whether how much of their coding will happen online, how much you can access coding knowledge and some other skills that we decide to use platforms to do. But the platform has the capability to do that, and we are strengthening those capabilities, right? So that's how we're looking at soft skills.
Excellent. So there are exciting opportunities, really, and for schools who are concerned about their level of income, there are places you can expand into. May I ask the tech team, if we have one or two persons who would like to ask their questions live, you can bring them on shortly. Are they ready now? No? Okay, so we'll give you a few minutes to arrange that. So let's talk about bottom line. I mean, too many questions about bottom line here. Or before we go into bottom line, two questions have come in, and one says, how can we protect our pupils from being exposed to all sorts that pop up in the course of having learning online? A similar question says, as much as we desire to take teaching and learning process beyond the confines of the classrooms, how best can we guard against activities of cybercrime and hackers? So I'm going to throw this. Who would like to take this? Should I tell Mr. Molumo, then I come to...
Okay. Yeah. Maybe in line with what I said earlier on, that tech is not as cheap as probably we are made to know. So with free applications, free softwares, free resources and the like, comes their own challenges. And some of the challenges that we always have are some of these issues relating to advertisements popping up, unsolicited advertisement, because what they actually project that they're giving you for free is actually not free. Somebody else is paying for it. So those who are paying for it, they need to also, showcase them. And that is why we always have all of this pop-up. So the truth is that we just have to be very intentional about the investments that we have to make and acquire, licenses to all of these softwares. So, sometimes people will say, oh, why at my own hand I would say that I'm investing so much in Microsoft applications when it is always free out there. But I will tell you that I know what we are pursuing. Microsoft is not free as you thought. Thank you. So Microsoft is not as free as you thought. So there are free versions, but there are limitations to it. So when you need to explore deep and wide, then you need to pay for the license. And with that comes with a lot of other opportunities for security, for protection, and all of those things that you can actually set in place for the children. Beside those ones, we also have some other applications that are very targeted and specific to security online. Just to be able to protect and probably limit the amount of exposures that our children and our students will have to unsolicited materials or inappropriate applications and materials for them. So all of these ones, they also cost money. That's why I said earlier on that technology is really costly. It's a very tough call for everybody, but the reality that has come upon us is just what we need to face. A courage to be able to proceed in that direction, knowing full well that this is the new direction for the world and this is the direction for these children tomorrow. So it was our investment in all cases. So it is not something that people will easily see, that you are putting in millions there. When I pay for licenses here, I pay for licenses there. It's not something that somebody will come into the school and easily assess that where do you claim you are spending all of these millions. So if I pay, you know, about 5 million naira, 3 million naira to Boye here now, you know, for its application, not many people will see where is the investment of 3 million. So that's what people will say. So it's almost like it's something eating, but the impact of it is what will tell people that you are actually doing something. So I just will advise that, like I said, it's a tough call, but we just have to find a way around it. We need to acquire licenses to avoid some of these, you know, unsolicited materials and advertisement that would actually endanger, you know, our children's, you know, access to the internet. Thank you.
Yes. Whilst we're passing the mic way, you know, what just occurred to me as Mr. Molumo was talking was, no matter how small a school is, you'll always find a security man, minimum of one, sometimes two. Most times it's actually two, so that when one goes somewhere. So if we can put in physical security men, then why would we think that having space, cloud space, whatever apps the children are working with, why do we think that we can just leave them to run wild? That oftentimes is something I can't wrap my head around. That there has to be something we must do. At the same way we pay these physical security men, there must be something we must be paying to keep those children safe there. Wait, go on.
Yeah, so I just want to share some strategies that help with this area of security. Schools need to think in terms of building a walled garden. So you have a place that they can play and do all these things. However, when you hit the head, somehow something pushes them back. And one of the ways to do that is, if you are fortunate enough to be able to deploy devices in your school, you can create walled gardens within your devices and allow certain apps to be downloaded or certain apps to not be downloaded. So you can have that image built into the device from the OEM, right? So that's one thing you can do. Another thing that you can do is the partnerships can exist with internet service providers, ISPs, including the MTNs and the rest, that allows you to control where they can check and where they cannot check or see, right? So you need to think proactively as a school leader that how much conversation have I had in ISP, or how much networking infrastructure within that infrastructure have I then said there are filters for this type of language. Some of the things that are obvious, more than that, there are more non-obvious things like bullying and, like I said, fraudulent things that are possible even with children that are very young. And I think there's no time for you to prevent them against such things, but actually as early as you can think about it. So that's another way. And then there are tools, and so just like Mr. Molumo said, is that those tools cost money, but you can buy bulk subscription for every student in the school to allow you to install those tools on all the devices. So you need to be able to think about what tools have this kind of power, prevent some art, prevent some language to be used, even prevent what you see on Google. So if you search certain things, you will see only a certain kind of result when you have that filter behind. Google would not show you what you have filtered. And lastly, education is important. So you need to educate your parents, educate your students, educate the teacher, and make it look like you are, not just look like, but actually make sure that you are security aware in your school. When that heightened awareness exists, you see that people then tend to behave in the way you expect.
Thank you so much, Boye. I hope you noted the tips he shared, and I hope you noted what you can do, the fact that you need to establish what you want for those children.